Bannon and Epstein are plotting together. This is at the point when we're at the midterm elections in Trump's first term to create an international network of people, basically men, powerful men, who resent the Me Too Time's Up movement that's trying to push back against the historical tendency of powerful men to impose on women. These guys are trying to create a network across international boundaries that is going to meld the MAGA movement uh, together in a way that is going to try to nullify the effort of women to get justice in the world.
The Epstein saga is continuing tonight following the release of thousands of emails which reference President Trump, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew, and Trump's former advisor Steve Bannon. In response, the US president has called on the Justice Department to investigate Epstein's alleged ties to former US President Bill Clinton, alongside other prominent Democrats and indeed JP Morgan, the investment bank, and Chase too. Let's discuss this with Frank Bowman, author of High Crimes and Misdemeanors, A History of Impeachment for the Age of Trump. Frank, hello, what an age it is.
Yes, it certainly is.
It certainly is. Now, after the president refused to take questions on Epstein or anything else yesterday and the day before, today we finally get the president's response, a call on the Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate a slew of Democrats and investment banks. Now, I know Mr. Trump is the master of distraction, but isn't this a stretch even for him?
I don't know that anything is a stretch for President Trump. I mean, it plainly is an attempt to divert attention away from not only himself, of course, but also people in his close political circle, including Steve Bannon. I mean, the main thing that strikes me about all this, of course, as a former Justice Department prosecutor, is it saddens me further the degree to which the department has been essentially destroyed. It's been taken from, perhaps the world's leading enforcer of impartial enforcement of law in the United States and overseas, to a simple political tool of Donald Trump. And so, he's doing something which prior to this term would be totally unprecedented. He's just directing the Attorney General to go off on wild goose chase investigations of Democrats in order to distract attention from his own problems. It's tragic.
Well, like we here in the UK, the US is meant to be a nation of laws, a beacon of democracy and fair play. So one wonders what kind of lawyer who is ethical and believes in proper governance, proper checks and balances, would take up this assignment. And now we know Attorney Jay Clayton is the person, the US Attorney in Manhattan, has been nominated by Pam Bondi. She calls him one of the most capable and trusted prosecutors in the country. Do you imagine that many of Jay Clayton's colleagues will have said, nope, not for me?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of ducking in the U.S. Attorney's office. I think there's this. All kidding aside, there is a huge question, I think, about the degree to which the department can any longer secure competent personnel, competent lawyers to proceed on these unfounded and obviously political investigations. I think it's a major problem. They will certainly find some. Obviously, they found an attorney general who's willing to do this stuff. They found some subordinates of hers in the first couple levels of supervision below her, or are perfectly willing to turn the Justice Department into an instrument of retribution. But I think it is proving increasingly difficult at lower levels to get competent people to actually bring these cases to trial, as we're starting to see in some other of his frivolous prosecutions, as, for example, against Jim Comey.
Right. And how alarmed is Mr. Trump at the increasing defiance of Republicans who've publicly crossed him by signing onto a Democratic petition to release the full breadth of the files? I'm just looking at names like Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, Lauren Boebert, Nancy Mace, and Thomas Massie. Now, they represent the MAGA base. How far might this grow?
I don't know. I mean, I think the somewhat larger tranche of Epstein materials is plainly going to be released. Whether any release that emerges is actually going to separate many of Trump's most fervent supporters from him, I'm very doubtful about. I mean, after all, this is a guy who got elected in 2016, mere weeks after he was, broadcast on tape saying that he was entitled to grab women by their private parts. And he was elected again this last time after he'd actually been, held responsible by a jury for sexual assault. So the fact that he is more closely connected by these files to Mr. Epstein, will that in the end really do much to damage him with the base? I think we're entitled to doubt that.
Why is that, Frank? Why is that? Remember, he famously said, I could shoot somebody on, was it either Park Avenue or Fifth Avenue, and they would still, people still vote for me. How does one explain the continuing hold that Trump has on a section of the U.S. population, the voter?
Well, of course, that's the continuing mystery of American politics for the last decade. He appeals to a certain segment of the population who feel aggrieved about a lot of things and who are thus willing to forgive his obvious personality faults because they perceive him to be a champion of things that they want, perceive him to be a champion against people they despise. I think one of the most interesting parts about the stuff that's coming out on Epstein is the degree to which, if you look at it carefully, you realize how closely Trump is part of a group of rich misogynists who have absolute contempt for the kind of people who vote for Trump. The Bannon exchanges with Steve Bannon exchanges with Epstein are really quite illustrative of that. Essentially, what you see in those exchanges, if you analyze them, is that in 2018, 2019, Bannon and Epstein are plotting together. And this is at the point where the midterm elections in Trump's first term, to create an international network of people, basically men, powerful men, who resent the Me Too Time's Up movement that's trying to push back against the historical tendency of powerful men to impose on women. These guys are trying to create a network across international boundaries that is going to meld the MAGA movement together in a way that is going to try to nullify the effort of women to get justice in the world. That's a pretty amazing project.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what they're doing. And exactly what they're doing. It's plain, it's unmistakable. It's right there in email exchanges. And that does a number of things. It gives the lie to Steve Bannon's arguments for years that somehow or other he's the guy who helped expose Epstein when in fact he was collaborating with Epstein.
Yep.
It gives the lie to the notion that that efforts to try to expose Epstein's wrongdoing or somehow or there's some kind of democratic plot to conceal Democrats' wrongdoing. Bannon has been an ally and confidant and strategist for Trump for years and years and years. And it turns out, lo and behold, that Epstein was thick as thieves with the guy right in the middle of Trump's first term, and thick as thieves trying to create a movement that would benefit politically. Well, who?
Yeah.
Misogynists like Donald Trump.
Right. Well, Frank, if we're only just scratching the surface with what's been unveiled thus far, one wonders where this is going to go. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Time Here. That's Frank Bowman, author of High Crimes and Misdemeanors, A History of Impeachment for the Age of Trump.